There we go. There we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to one more session of Smartlead's office hours. My name is Akash, and I'm your customer success manager here at Smartlead. Before we get to our guest for the day, you know the drill. Drop on the comments where you're from, the temperature at your city, and also let us know if you're an agency, a freelancer, or a startup. We'd love to know. You have the chat option in the center. Click on that, drop on the comments, and oh, yeah, there's one. Poland agency. Let's go. Freelancer. Startup from France. Hi, Alexandre. Chicago, 65 agency. He is. David is an absolute legend. Portugal recruitment company. Startup Toronto, Vancouver, Barcelona.
Will Stewart, my man.
Vienna, South Carolina. Himachal Pradesh. Wow.
Is there not anyone from Spain or Germany?
There was
Come
one
on.
Barcelona. There was Alex from Barcelona.
Yeah. Is Alex in here?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's our Alex, but there is an Alex from Barcelona here.
Mm. Yeah, another Alex. Not Alex Wecker, eh? Not the competition, eh? We cannot let the competition watch that.
And Nick was in Barcelona last week. So one more person. But awesome. Global audience as always. Without further ado, I'm going to kickstart. Thank you for dropping on the comments. A lot of agencies, freelancers, and startups all across the globe. And today, our guest for the week is David Lehnert. He is the CEO and the founder of Wyngman Agency, right? And today's session is
Yes.
super interesting because David is going to break down the exact systems, copies, tools, and workflows that helped him generate 521 opportunities and a $2 million pipeline without spending on ads or hiring his SDRs. And I can promise, as in every office hour session, when you're leaving this session, you will leave with a replicable playbook to execute for your cold email outreach. Before we jump into the session, David, over to you, sir. A quick round of introduction would be great.
Yeah, my name is David Lehnert, originally from Germany, but made a smart decision, left Germany 5 years ago, traveled a little bit around the world, was in New Zealand, now living in Spain. Someone was stuck in Morocco for a while, but I used to be a little bit of a nerd back in the days. Yeah, I used to be a software developer playing video games a lot. And then I don't know why, but while I was in New Zealand traveling, I really got into communication, annoyed a couple of people in elevators,
Right.
by just talking to everyone I saw. And then one day I just thought about, okay, how can I combine everything, communication, my technical skills, and then what's something every company needs, right? And that is
Right.
sales. Yeah, and always companies will need sales. And yeah, put everything together, got my first client working for free, got the results, case study, testimonials, and so forth. And now when I meet someone, I always say, okay, I spam people, but I use AI so they like it. Yeah. And that's what we do. Yeah, we've been doing it now for 3 years, relatively successful, I would say. And yeah, I'm happy to share some of my knowledge. Yeah. I don't want to overload the people here today. Give you some things, some principles that you can actually apply the thinking for yourself as well, and not just show you, okay, this is what we're good at, this is what we do. Yeah, I actually want to make sure that people can take something away from today.
100%. And that's how we've kind of segmented our questions as well, David. So from list building to copywriting to deliverability,
Yeah,
that's how we've kind of
yeah,
landed. But thank you so much from a software background to the cold emailing experience. I hope it's been great. But the first segment I have for today is the $998 cold email machine you've built. It's basically a
yeah,
combination of tools that you use for your cold email outreach.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
If you can throw some light on
yeah,
that, if you can tell us the audience about that, that would be great.
yeah. Yeah, I think nowadays, especially with the rise of AI, it gets more and more advanced. Yeah. And you have to make sure that you keep up with the competition because
Right.
you have more competition in the inbox. And the tools that are on the market, it's kind of boon and bane at the same time, because without those tools, we would all be on the same lower level and the competition would be similar, just on a different level. Yeah. But you need to keep up with the tools in order to compete. If you not have like a next level offer, if you have a unique offer, everything that I tell you will not 100% apply. Yeah, if you really have such a unique offer that the market just wants it, it's really easy to position. Yeah, the offer sells itself and you would just get the attention. But with the tools that we're using, what we always try, what the end goal of every email is, and I think that is a very important principle. Every email that we write, we really want to make it sound like actually someone of us or of our clients, yeah, for the copy of our clients, sat down at an infinite amount of time and research about the prospect.
Right.
Yeah, that's number one thing. And it is very important that you always ask yourself before you write a copy, how would I explain what I do to someone when I just met them at Starbucks? Yeah, because what I see most people, they kind of want to sound so professional because they are afraid maybe to get rejected or whatsoever. But
Right.
most people, they write very academic style emails. Yeah.
Right.
And to go away from that thinking to that you have to sound super professional. Obviously, if you speak to lawyers, you have to like maybe adjust a little bit and speak their language. But don't forget that here on the other side, it's a human. So how can you relate to that human? And this is how we also then set up the technology to create copy on scale that recreates that feeling. Yeah.
And what have been the tools that kind of helped you build this structure, David? And
Yeah.
these are the cores, right? And as you said, one thing I also see when we're kind of auditing accounts, people kind of complicate the copies, right? It's too technical for someone to
Yeah.
understand.
Yes.
So you rightly pointed that out. And what have been the tools that kind of helped you put all of this in together?
Yeah. So the main tool always, so we have two main tools. Yeah. Smartly is one of them. That's basically the microphone. Yeah. And ensures that our message gets delivered and on scale. Yeah. But then to make it alive, to breathe some life into the copy and do the list building and like be very like detailed about every prospect is mostly Clay. Yeah. We're using Clay in the background to build the lists, to enrich the lists, qualify the lists, everything that usually a human would do, we use Clay to automate the process. Yeah. And then depending on the audience, right? What I'm going to show in this example is an audience that you will not find on Zoom Info, on Apollo, on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You will only find like a really small part of the total addressable market on those platforms. So what we're going to use is SERPA.
Right.
Yeah. SERPA.dev, great tool if you want to scrape results from Google, whether it's Google Shopping ads, it's Google Maps or whatsoever, you can use SERPA. Yeah.
Right.
And then we basically use that in this case to SERPA, you spell it SERPER.dev. Yeah. Amazing tool, very, very good billing model as well. Yeah. And it's great if you want to scrape local businesses from Google Maps. Yeah. Programmatically within Clay.
Got it. And do you
So
also
that are
use
the three
ChatGPT?
main. And then obviously you use a lot ChatGPT. Who doesn't use ChatGPT nowadays?
Got it. So it's going to be just a recap for the users, right? It's going to be a mix of Clay,
Yeah.
Smartlead, you have SerpoDev, and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
That's your tech.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me double check. Not that I forgot something. Let me have a quick look. But I think that were the tools that we used in this. Da, 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 da.
While you do that, I'm going to drop
Yeah.
quickly on the
Yeah,
cloud.
that are the ones. That are the ones. And obviously we need some email accounts, but I think that that should be clear.
Right. And in terms of comparing, you've generated 521 opportunities and a $9 million pipeline, David. So
Yeah.
when you compare the total campaign cost versus the pipeline generation, how would it look like?
So if you obviously don't calculate, or if you just calculate the tool cost that we had for this, yeah. Clay, we paid $350 for the client. Yeah. Smartlead, you can get going for I think for 97 if you want to have like a decent volume, right? SERPA, for the amount, SERPA is just okay. You top up your account, yeah, with a few credits, and then you have X requests. But for $50, you can probably scrape almost 50K businesses. So this is not much. Yeah. Or it's cheap. Yeah. So the cost and return is here really good. And then the email accounts, depending on your sending volume, right? You pay between $250 to $350 for a good inbox. Yeah. And then depending on how many you need, you just multiply that by that amount. Yeah, but you will end up with that setup for what I show you around $900 to $1,000 a month, roughly. Yeah, but it brings you the output of this brings you the output what we had of at least like 10 salespeople easily.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's
And
what
then you
everybody.
can and then you can compare the cost. If you pay like 900 or you pay probably 15, 20K a month, I think, yeah, it doesn't even make sense to think about it anymore.
That's awesome. And in this outreach of yours, all these opportunities you
Yeah.
completed, were you kind of targeting a specific niche, David?
Yeah. So one thing that's very important to understand is why this campaign, because this campaign worked exceptionally well,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at the reply rates, we're like 12.9 to 15.3 reply rates, and also from info at email addresses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we got it from info at, and then we had like 35 to 43% of those were positive. So if you calculate the overall positive reply rate, I think we had somewhere around 5%. Yeah, positive reply rate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you then look at the market and the niche, why it works so good was it was in Germany. Germany's not exposed to that many cold emails than the United States. So in Germany, we see 2 times at least the performance than we see in the States. The timing was good because we were targeting hotels, small hotels, and they currently face the problem that we had a solution for, and that was they don't have enough people booking or businesses booking their meeting rooms, event rooms, and whatsoever. Yeah,
Right.
because it was early in the year. Yeah, and usually those hotels, their prime is more like when it becomes summer. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So the audience was small hotels that didn't belong to hotel chains. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that had at least 13 rooms. So we knew there's a little bit of liquidity.
Right.
Yeah. And then we adjusted the copy also to see, okay, can we find anything on the website that tells us they already have event rooms, they don't have event rooms, and then
Right.
we would also adjust the value proposition a little bit.
Got it. Interesting. And how would you get emails of local businesses? David, picking one from the chat. So, do you still
Yeah,
use Serper for that, or do you have any other suggestions that people can use?
yeah. I don't know if it makes sense now. I can also just share a little bit of the Clay workflow that built the list, show a little bit how we found the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Please.
if that makes sense. And then I would just share my screen
100%.
and go through it. And I will not be able to see the chat. So if any question come up, just tell me. Yeah, and then I
Yep.
try
On it.
to address them. So can everyone see the screen?
Yep. We can see a screen, David.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to show like now is how did we build the initial list and how did we qualify to only reach out to companies or hotels in this case that made sense for the client, right? What you see here, and we have that for almost every country in the world, we have a list of all cities, villages, towns. These are basically all villages and towns of Germany. Yeah, we got like almost 11,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what we do is with Serper together,
Right.
we basically have formed these Google Map searches that you can see here
Right.
on scale for all of these 10,000 cities. Yeah, and at the end of the day, what we're doing here is we just, if I would go on Google Maps, yeah, greetings from Barcelona, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Search. Okay, let me use another city maybe. We would just perform these Google searches at the end of the day. And then for all these 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
and then all these red dots that you can now see, all these businesses, we collect through Serper and with Clay, right? So
Right.
Clay performs like this and gets us all results from page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. You could build a little automation that automatically goes through all the pages, but most of the time the top results are like on the first 4 or 5 pages. Yeah. We get all these hotels for all these keywords that are some German keywords, but the principle, you could use it for anything. We use it for lawyers, med spas, animal shelters, like we use it for everything. This is how you can scrape these local businesses more. Yeah. And we performed this for all relevant towns. Yeah, we had a few states within Germany that we wanted to target. Yeah, but
Got it.
we did it for 7,500. So this is just to collect an initial list. And when you scrape something from Google Maps, what happens? Maybe you type in hotel, but you find a hotel agency, marketing agency, hotel consulting, or whatsoever. So now, how we always structure also our Clay tables, that comes a little bit from my software development background, is every table just has one purpose. So everything is modular. If something breaks in the process, we can just change it in one table, and we don't have to rearrange the whole table because many people did their whole flow in one table.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is just a list building table. That's the only thing that this table does.
Got it.
Then it writes all the results here with this integration. Yeah, it's a native Clay integration, writes it into the second table, yeah, which for us is always a table that just qualifies the results. And here we see we found 33,000 hotels. Yeah. And this whole process took maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. So now we have a lead list of almost 30,000 or 34,000 hotels with all that information that comes from SERP. Yeah, you got the name, you get the Google ID, and then you could also use this Google ID to know, scrape their reviews. We did this for restaurants, for example, to scrape the reviews, and then we could actually see what do people say about the staff, what is the name of staff members. You basically get a view inside of the business, which is really cool if you think about it, and then you can use that information too. But we didn't do this in this case, yeah. So we got all these hotels here, and we see also from what query they came, yeah. And what we do is, okay, we use an AI agent here, the Clay agent, yeah. And we set it up to check a few things for us, yeah, because our client had a few requirements. First, we want to see is that really a hotel is located in Germany. Sometimes you have sometimes Google Maps results really small percentage, but there's a percentage that just is not correct. Then is it really a hotel? This is what it also checks, yeah. And then the client didn't want to reach out to any big hotel chains. Yeah, so we checked, does this hotel belong to a big hotel chain or not? Yeah, and if it did, we wouldn't reach out to it. Well, we also check, okay, does it have already any B2B offers, any event rooms, anything for companies to go there, maybe have like team events or whatsoever, yeah, or for seminars, workshops, yeah, all this kind of stuff. So we checked this. And then we could adjust our value proposition based on did we see something there or did we not see anything regarding this? Yeah. So this is what this whole prompt does. Yeah.
Right. Super interesting. Like, and you spent close to 15 minutes for data of 33,000.
Yeah.
Deep insights as well.
Yeah. And then what we also did here, this is not 100% accurate because not for every hotel you can get the hotel room, but we also used a prompt here that would Google certain keywords, Google queries to find out how many hotel rooms does this hotel have. Yeah, you see that a lot with like when you go like on these booking sites, they state the hotel rooms. Sometimes you just have to know, okay, before you start anything like this, you always have go manually through the whole process one time to see where do I get this information, where do I get that, and then you can definitely replicate it with Clay.
Got it. Yeah. And picking a few from the chat, David. So
yeah,
there's one user who said, how do you check this exactly? Because when he does it, he kind of makes huge mistakes doing via the Clay agent. So do you have any recommendations there?
First of all, the way you prompt is very, very important. Give the prompt. Sometimes it's nice to just type something in and then wish like ChatGPT really does it exactly as you would do it. But it's always better give her every like little step. How would you do it manually? Yeah, and how would you verify it? Yeah, so that minimizes, but you will still have anomalies. Yeah, you will always have them. You can never, if you really want to make sure. Yeah, we don't really do it because the room for mistakes or the percentage of mistakes that we see so low that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. The return on invest to now verify these results is just not there, like the extra time. But what you could do if you now get the results, yeah, to run a second ChatGPT that just checks if the result was correct. Yeah, but then you have to develop a prompt for that again, and that has to be good as well. So this is how we usually make sure, okay, it is what we. And also when the market people are very afraid always of that they maybe burn some leads or But I tell you, most people forgot about your cold email probably 10 minutes after they got it. Yeah, if it's not relevant to them. So if you text them in 2, 3 months again, they don't even know who you are. They don't know that you ever texted them. If you not completely piss them off, yeah, it's not as big as a problem as many people think it is.
Right. So would it recognize big and small hotels very well with ChatGPT?
Yeah, it would, because we would define what is a big hotel chain, give her some example names. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and is it a chain? Like, does it have multiple location? Like, is it like for in the whole nation?
Got it.
Yeah, for
Got
example.
it.
You have to have a clear definition. What is a big hotel chain? And then just give it to her. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair
That's
enough.
what I'm saying. Always do it manually first. And what would you check manually so you know what you can actually task the AI with? At the end of the day, AI is just like an employee, right? So, and you know yourself, if you tell an employee, yeah, just get there, but you know how it is. It doesn't always come
100%.
back as you want it to.
Right prompts for to get the best out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Follow question for this, right? So one more user has
yeah,
asked if you have any prompt recommendation for the Claygen.
yeah. Yeah, I would always, so we always structure, let me see if we did it here as well. Yeah, we always give like an intro, or we give a goal, context. You can call it intro, goal, context. It just gives, this is what you're going to be tasked with. This is what the goal is, and this is what we kind of expect, but without any details, just to set the stage. And then we always tell it as well that it finds or how to achieve that goal in the instructions. Yeah, and then we give instructions. And then if it's more complex, we also define the output. We maybe give some examples. Yeah, the more we know, the more complex it is, the more we give ChatGPT.
Got it.
Yeah, but always set the stage, always give a little intro. Yeah, then like instructions step by step how to achieve that goal. Yeah, if you have material as well that you want to provide to increase the accuracy, then do it. Yeah, and then we define the output. We get everything back in JSON always. Yeah, because not always, but if we have like two information pieces that we want to get back, we always use JSON. If we just want to have one back, we just use the normal output. Yeah, and then here you see we also gave it examples. Yeah, and
Right.
you visit this, then you saw this on the website. So we give it examples to be very accurate. And that's why, yeah, people sometimes with ChatGPT, I think ChatGPT does everything for you now. It will probably do in a couple of years or maybe in 6 months or whatever, but the more details you give it, the better it will work.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. And one more question from Ken. What are your preferred models in Clay for research? How about mail copy generation subject line?
The copy, we don't use ChatGPT for copy at all. We know only for snippets, because if you go like to I think it's called ChatGPT 0 or something like this, that detects if content was created. You have to give ChatGPT so much instruction to not sound like ChatGPT. It's just not worth it. Yeah, so we always write the copy first, and I'm going to show the exact copy that we use here. And then we know what parts of the copy need to be personalized. Yeah, but we never let ChatGPT, because it just still sounds, and it could be and also the whole deliverability thing is a huge black box. Yeah, but we don't know how much is Microsoft and Google really checking for ChatGPT sentence patterns. We don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, every time we write a copy, we put it into ChatGPT 0. It has like 0, like it is not written by ChatGPT, and that's what we kind of aiming for. So yeah, for writing emails, I would not use ChatGPT at all. But for research, you always have to know, like, okay, for how many rows do I want to execute this? If you have 10,000 rows, you probably don't want to use anything other than the mini LLMs, right?
Right.
Because otherwise your cost is going to be so high, it probably is not worth it.
And
Yeah.
that's what the question
The
here is, right?
small,
So the
yeah,
follow-up
yeah. So
question.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, so the smaller your list is, yeah, and the more accuracy and the lazier you are as well, then you can use the more expensive ones, because they will do some of the thinking for you. Yeah, and they will come back with. But if you have a lot of lists and you have a complex task, then break the task down in multiple agents, and each agent just does one part of that task. And then at the end, you can feed that information maybe in a final GPT to create the whole outcome that you were looking for. Yeah, that would be way, way cheaper than just having one agent that goes for 10,000 rows and you use like a 4 or whatever model. Yeah.
Got it. And before we jump next to the copywriting segment, one
Yeah.
last question on this question from Eunice. How do you fetch the email addresses of decision makers of these hotels?
Yeah. Good question. That's what I'm going to show next. We have a really unique approach. I haven't really seen it anywhere else. But we have a table and we use it for all our clients, and for all campaigns. So let me get back one more time on this. So this is the table that qualified basically the hotels that we scraped, right? Every qualified hotel. Now, because I told you every table has just one purpose, The next table, the next three tables, but I will just show a little bit of baseline. The next table is only responsible for identifying the contacts.
Correct.
Yeah, so we're only, and it's a massive table. Yeah, we built it probably a year ago and then we refined it a little bit more. But this table now get basically all the qualified hotels. And here's where a lot of magic happens. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're using a mix between SERPA and Claygen to get the LinkedIn profiles and get the data from the LinkedIn profiles without ever touching LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah. So because LinkedIn credits, you have to spend a lot of LinkedIn credits otherwise here in Clay. Yeah. So we don't touch any LinkedIn credit. We don't need to use any credits here. Yeah. We can just use AI. Yeah. Which is very cheap. How much did we pay here per? We pay, that's thousands of a cent. Yeah. For one contact. And then for the SERPA credits, they're very cheap too. So what we do is we have one prompt here. Yeah. That we task, and I show you what it's tasked for because it's very dynamic. But we task it to perform some Google searches. Yeah. And to perform these Google searches in a waterfall process. Yeah. So we tell it in a waterfall process, but this is basically what it goes through. I don't know if you can see that. First, Google site, LinkedIn.com, because then it will only consider results from LinkedIn.com. Yeah. And then only consider results where in the URL is like the /in/ because then it will only consider LinkedIn profiles. And then we just say the name of the hotel and the title, the CEO, which is unlikely for hotels. Yeah, but some hotels will have a CEO. And we will go through this. Then it does chief executive officer, then it does hotel director, hotel manager, and just goes it until it finds someone. Yeah.
Got it.
And this way, we don't have to touch the LinkedIn integration because it's just expensive. And then when we get this, get it back, and you can also find people that you sometimes don't even find. Yeah. So we get the people back, and what we do then we do a SERPA Google search here, where we say, okay, site, and this time we use the link from the profile. And if we would type this in, site, we get this snippet from Google with all the information we need. So we basically just scrape that information now. Does it make sense? We get the name, we get his title, we get what company he belongs to right now. Yeah, and then we feed that in ChatGPT to dissect it. Okay, give us the job title, give us the full name, give us this, give us this. And we also check because sometimes it has mistakes. Does the lead really belong to the company that we just found? And this one doesn't belong. This one belong. The ones that we don't find, where it comes out, okay, they actually doesn't belong together. Then we have a whole set of, this is not interesting, but this, where we say, okay, now visit the website and try to identify the person there. Okay, you couldn't find him on the website, then go on the website again, or then Google for, we check, do we find the team site? Okay, we don't find the team site. Then go on it again, and then try to find the info at or contact at. So we have like a whole set. And if we couldn't find any information here, then in the last resort, here at the end, we use Apollo and we use LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah, then, but you see that barely executed.
Right.
Yeah. And then those contacts, once we got them, then we have the next table. That's not that interesting anymore, but this is basically all the identified contacts, right? And we have like 15,000 contacts now here.
Absolutely.
And companies, and then we enrich the company. This would be a table, but we didn't need to do it here, where we then would just enrich further data just about the company itself. Yeah, do we find and to use it then in the copy?
Got it. And how
Does
much
it make
time do you
sense?
put into this, David? That's a question because this is super interesting and
Yeah.
it looks like a process. And how much time do you invest in this?
At this stage, we can get something like this already. Depends, maybe half a day, sometimes 2 days. Because we have the templates, we copy and paste the templates. What we have to adjust is, or where the most work happens is actually in this table later. What are the custom things about the company we need to enrich to make the copy unique? Yeah.
Got it.
And the second table where I showed you where we're looking for the contacts. This was the company qualification. Yeah, here's also some work that happens. Yeah, because how do we need to qualify the company? Yeah. And then we have to adjust these fields here. Yeah, we have to give an ICP description for the prompt. Who are we looking for? Yeah, how do you prioritize contacts if you find like a CEO and a CMO, who to pick? Yeah, then that's not very beautiful. Yeah, but this basically creates what we see in the Google searches to perform for the agent. Yeah, so we have to adjust it. But we also created a custom GPT where we can type in and it does it for us, and then we just paste them in this table. Yeah. And then what is also annoying, we have to connect all the tables because we use the HTTP integration and not write to table within Clay. Because if you use the write to table integration and you connect more than 5 tables, it breaks, doesn't work. So you have to use the HTTP integration. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And we have one more user asking this, right? So they've been using Apollo for finding direct phone numbers and emails in Canada. So
Yeah.
have any thoughts on that?
Pardon?
So they've been using Apollo for
Yeah.
finding leads in Canada, and it's
Yeah,
been
just
working
leave
out
it.
great for
Just
them.
stop it. Just stop it. Just stop it. It depends, obviously, it depends a little bit, okay, how much budget do you have? But if you have a little bit of budget, just switch to Clay.
Right.
Clay will make everything easier. You have all the integrations, you have Apollo. I think also here, for example, yeah, when we look for the email, right? Like you have like all these data integrations to get the email of the contact. You not just have one. Yeah, it checks find email, it doesn't find it. Okay, goes to Nimbler, goes to this one, goes to ICPs. It's just way easier. Yeah. And the Apollo data, it is good. Apollo is always good, I think, for beginners to start with, but you have to know that like probably 10 to 15% of the emails are crap. Yeah. So you definitely have to validate them. And you have to combine multiple filters, I guess. Or I would suggest to really find like a little bit of a unique segment. Yeah, depending on your offer. Apollo has some good filters. For example, if you want to filter companies that have or where they do not have employees in certain departments,
Right.
then you know, okay, maybe they have a lack, and then you combine this. Let's say you offer performance marketing, yeah. Then you could check, do they have any marketing people in their team? No, they don't. But then you could also check how much employees have they grown in the past 6 months. Now, you know, it's a growing company, but they don't have anyone in marketing. That are two good filters if you combine them, right? But if you just go by industries and stuff, I don't think it's that great. Then you have to use another tool to find something out about these companies, to find some signals or whatsoever to make it worth it.
Makes a lot of sense. And this has been super insightful, David. I think most of us are going to switch to Clay after seeing this. But thank you so much for this. And the next segment, I think people in the comments have been waiting to go there, which is about copies. But before we jump into the questions I had, I'm picking a couple of ones from the chat. So taking a step back, one user had this question where you said no to ChatGPT generated copies. So his question was that how to ultra personalize all the emails to differentiate industries if we don't use ChatGPT for email writing. It seems too much writing. Is there a way to automate this, especially in the context of Smartlead?
Yeah, no, it's not that we don't use ChatGPT, but we don't let ChatGPT compile the whole email, just really small snippets,
right?
Max 5-6 words. Yeah. Here, for example, we didn't really need to do it. Yeah, but usually, maybe I can just pull up another example in a second, but maybe we just go on the copy and then people can kind of see what I mean. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's
But
what the next question.
yeah, the core thought is don't use ChatGPT to create a whole copy. Yeah, just don't use it. Just know, like, what sit down one time yourself and think, how would I write a copy myself if I really had all the information that I need to build that or bridge the gap between why did I even reach out to that company and make it easy for the prospect to justify in their mind, hey, why did this guy even text me? Yeah, if you can't even do that, you probably should not do cold outreach. Yeah, that's a basic form of respect as well, right? If they cannot immediately justify themselves why they got the email, why would they read that in the first place?
Yeah, aligned. And this has been a common recommendation from few of our guests as well, right? And one thing
Yeah,
that Max always says is, would you read the email if you receive the notification?
yeah,
Write such emails,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
aligned with that.
yeah. Yeah, let's just go in it. And I shared a copy here.
Yeah, because that's what we want. Users are asking for the copies
Yeah,
that
yeah,
generated the
yeah,
positive responses for you.
yeah. Let's go through the copy, but just two things. Copy secrets, and I don't want to get like make it too complicated. But the first
Mhm.
thing, sound human. Don't sound like an academic. Yeah, keep it easy, keep it a bit chill. And then also, what I said, how would you explain what you do to a person you just met at Starbucks? Yeah, and without that need to sound like the shit, sound rather a little bit like almost disinterested, like sound a little bit laid back, because if we're too eager, people can sense it. Yeah. And that's kind of like in dating or whatsoever, you can feel it if you're too needy. Like also if you do business with other people, there's always this in the back of your mind, like you never really know the true intentions of a person if they're too needy.
Yep.
Yeah. And we can just feel it subconsciously. So don't do that. And then also make sure that each paragraph just sells the next one. Yeah, you guide them through your copy. Every paragraph has to give them a reason to read the next paragraph and not just say, okay, I had enough. I'm
Right.
I'm out. Yeah. And what we used here for this copy. Yeah. And I structured this a little bit like with, okay, what is each part doing? Yeah, so you understand. And I also want to say this is just one of many cold email skeletons that you can use. Yeah. Well, I think we spoke about it before the webinar, but what I see a lot on LinkedIn is like people posting, yeah, keep your copy under 70 words, under 100 words. And it works,
Right.
but everything, even what I share with you today, will just work so long until so many people do it that it loses its efficiency. It's just how nature works. Yeah. And same with these short, and they work, but people will get subconsciously more used to those patterns. Yeah. And they will, in the blink of a second of an eye, they will categorize it as a sales email, but they work as of now. Yeah,
Right.
but I can tell you if you have a well-structured long email, and we have emails that have 120 to 200 words, which is completely against what you read, and they work.
Right.
Yeah. So I go through the structure first, and then we can just read through it one time to see it. But we always have one hook, and it only has two reasons. Yeah, capture their attention and create relevancy so they read the rest. This is the only thing. If I just imagine, okay, if I would read that, or the prospect reads that hook, is it relevant to them, and does it capture their attention? Does it open the curiosity loop in their brain? Yeah, because they're looking for an answer when they get an email. Why
Mhm.
did I got this email? And you have to create it, and you have to leverage that as well. This one here, I would not recommend in every market. Yeah, my name is XY because it is very salesy. Yeah. But in the German market, there's a we Germans are skeptical as fuck. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we want to know who we're making business. So you have to have a little bit of an understanding of who you're writing to and texting to.
Right.
And this is something that comes with experience. Obviously, yeah, you can ask ChatGPT for certain things, but especially with cold emails, ChatGPT is shit. Like the emails are just too nice. Yeah,
True.
they're too nice that it writes. Um, So this I would only do in a very skeptical market overall. Yeah, if they need to know, okay, who am I speaking with? Yeah. And in Germany, they just like it very professional. It's just how it is over here. Yeah. But then we do a little bit of in this skeleton. We don't do it with all our emails, but in this it was really good because we knew the market and we knew right now what time and what problems are they facing. So we do a little bit of problem stating, and it does two things. Yeah, it disqualifies unfits, people who do not experience a problem. We don't need to sell them anything they don't need. Yeah. But it also increases the relevancy again. It amplifies it again for the ones who feel that problem right now or experience the problem. Yeah. Right. Then now we stated the problem. Now it's time to let them feel the pain a little bit. Yeah. What happens if they don't take action now? Yeah. So we put a little bit of salt in their wound and we make them understand if they're not taking action now, what they're missing out on or why it hurts. Yeah. And it sets also the stage again for the next one, for the solution, for the proposal. Yeah. Right. And then we show them the remedy. Yeah, we show them the way out of the situation that might be very painful. And then we have the CTA. Yeah, and the CTA, that's also something you will read a lot online about. Yeah, the CTA, it needs to be like soft all the time, give them something. And it's right for most markets, but with everything, there are exceptions to the rule. Yeah, if you have a really unique and understandable offer that is not very complex, yeah, that where people know the value immediately, you don't have to give them anything. They want to be on a call with you because you got something cool. And an example for this would be, we work with a company that were selling sponsorships to put your logo on an Aston Martin racing car. Right. Yeah. Which is like so unique. How many times do you get an email with that opportunity? That's an opportunity. Aston Martin is a big name. Like you actually have the longer leverage here. So you can ask and you can qualify them. We even had the CTA asking, yeah, we don't want to rush anything because we also have to check some things from our end, but maybe it makes sense for now to just touch base briefly and then see if it makes sense to move forward. Yeah, something along those lines. So that worked. We got a 3% positive reply rate on asking for a meeting there. Yeah, right. And we were sending to high-level CEOs of 500 million revenue companies. Yeah, but you are most likely with everything because you will have most likely competition. This is just good to know if you have a unique solution, yes, but most of the time you have to give them something. Yeah, that's why you see it so many times on LinkedIn. Yeah, send them videos, send them trial or whatsoever. Yeah, but the more complex and the more saturated your market is or your offer is, the softer your CTA needs to be.
Got it. Got it. And when
maybe give it.
Right, and one question there, Adam. When you so David, when you reach out to these people from Germany, right? So how does your campaign copies look? Are they in English or are they in German? And do you see a difference in performance between these two?
Yeah, absolutely. Difference in performance is notable. It is definitely notable. We wrote it in German, but I just translated it into English, yeah, for the audience here. But also getting back maybe, or just finishing the point on the performance. Usually in Germany, we see performance twice as good as in the States, just because you don't have that much competition in the inbox, and especially the level, the sophistication of cold outreach. Like cold outreach and sales in Germany is like you're putting a nuclear reactor back in the 1700s. It's basically like they don't, you actually impress people with something like that. And you piss a lot of people off in Germany as well because they hate cold email, but overall you have more people who appreciate a good cold email.
That's great to know because we see a lot of people avoiding it because of that, right? But now we know that it's a good market to target. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And also maybe let me get back to the other question that the guy asked about the copy, right? So if we're looking at that copy and we say, hello, first name, my colleague was in region last week and told me about your hotel. So region, we wouldn't even necessarily say the city because everyone says the city. Maybe we use a name that is locally very known. Yeah. When you're in Florida, maybe the Key West or whatever, we would express it in a geographical location. Yeah, we translate addresses into to make it sound more human. Like I said, when you're like Starbucks and you're explaining to someone, how would you speak with that person, right? And we always, that's just our style. There are other ways to work as well, but our style is because we want to keep it human. We always create a little story, even though it's not true. Yeah, we always create a little story. We say my colleague, sometimes we give the colleague a name, or we just spoke about you in a team meeting, or one of our juniors worked on his thesis and he saw this. Like we wrap it in a little story. Yeah.
Got it.
So we say, hey, my colleague was in that region last week and he told me about your hotel. My name is XYZ. Like I said, this one is not where this was just for the German market. Yeah.
Got
And then
it.
we say, okay, what also worked here so well is we used a lot of terminology that the market just knows. Yeah. So we said occupancy rates in Germany, that was something that was on their mind all the time. Yeah.
Right.
So we're saying, hey, we're not sure what your occupancy rates for the event rooms, because we detected they have event rooms, right? Currently look like, but I noticed something while checking the area around your hotel. This opens the curiosity loop, like what did you notice about the area? Yeah. And
Right.
obviously you did some research because you know that I have event rooms. So they want to know, okay, at least what did you notice? So we're selling this next paragraph again. And then we said, because we had, this was also not 100% accurate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we researched before we started the campaign statistics per population. How many companies do you have in a certain area? So if we knew if an area has 10,000 population, we know they have maybe 100 companies.
Right.
Yeah. And then we could use that and we could basically say, hey, did you know that there are over 50 companies within a 10-mile radius that are looking for spaces like yours, but they don't even know you exist. Yeah. So we're making the pain. We're increasing the pain here, and we're showing them again, we did some research. So everything that we do, we're showing them we actually did some research. So they see that we work for this a little bit. That builds trust. Yeah. So we kind of give them something already. And then the remedy, we also keep it a little bit. We don't oversell stuff. So we say, okay, I've got an idea for how you could win them over and keep
Mm-hmm.
your occupancy rates constantly above 70%. We know the offer can do 90%, but we undersold it. We say 70% because everyone tries to oversell. We have everything we do, we're very laid back. Yeah, we
Right.
keep it very, very laid back. About 70% throughout the year, because we asked ourselves, and we also spoke with the client, what would be like still for them like a good result to achieve. Yeah, which doesn't sound like we're overselling something. Yeah.
Got it.
So we let them know, hey, there's so many companies, you're missing out on them, but hey, we have an idea how you can win them over. And why would they now be against if we just say, hey, would it be all right if I record a quick video to show you what I had in mind? Because no, the curiosity is on. They just want to know, like, what? Yeah, what do you have in mind? And this is why we got these results. Hey, we had like, this is the campaign. You check. And we did it also in Switzerland, in Austria, and in Germany. And you see the reply rates overall are almost
Wow.
the same. And
Right.
we also, these are campaigns, the general ones, where we
Mm-hmm.
send to general emails, contact at, info at, and you see the reply rates are not that much different from the writing to personal emails. Yeah.
Got it. And
So
if
this
I'm
is then also just to wrap up the point
exactly
here with the copy. Yeah. So now we know, okay, what do we have to find out? We have to find out the region. So we would just task GPT, okay, take that address and create it in a geographical region that fits into this sentence. And then we give it a sentence, but only give us the snippet back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also give it examples. The more examples, the better. Yeah. We always also normalize the company name. So you don't say like company X LIC.
Got it.
Yeah. Then this one was just a formula in Clay. Yeah, we didn't need ChatGPT for this,
Got it.
but the principle is the same. We know, okay, this part needs to be personalized, this. What information do we need to feed ChatGPT to create these snippets? And then you can just import them as variables, say,
Got it.
in when you use the Smartlead integration here. Yeah, here in the custom fields. Yeah. First name, location, hook. And that's how we do it.
Awesome. And in terms of structure, it's going to be hook, pain, proof, remedy, and a CTA.
Yeah, here. In this example, right? We also like, that's something that people should not confuse. Like, you would probably have someone next week on here who has another great copy structure that works. Yeah,
Right.
it's not just one way, but you will see like some things that are common. Yeah, and the things that are always common, it has to be relevant.
Got it.
Yeah, how you create that relevancy, get a little bit creative. Like really take some time, at least a day or what's what you do manually. Yeah, think about that a little bit and then get creative. For example, what we also did for another company that's almost 1.5 years ago, because I can't give away all the details, but the thought process might be interesting. Yeah, we were working with a company that had a very hands-on audience,
Got
like
it.
kind of construction worker guys. Yeah, construction workers, they're probably not very open to doing business with some digitally and getting an email whatsoever.
Mhm.
So we needed to recreate like a very human to human experience. And the way we did that is that we did our initial list, same as here with Serpa. Yeah. Then in the qualification process, or not in the qualification process, in the enrichment process, once we found the contact, we have this enrichment table that just enriches data on the company level. There we checked where is their office address.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we use that address, and within a 2 mile radius, we check for restaurants. Yeah.
Right.
And we didn't say something, oh, yeah, you should go to this restaurant. Our thesis was if that restaurant is that close, the person has seen it with their own eyes. So we
Right.
wanted to create familiarity, right? And
Right.
then in the hook, we just basically said, hey, my friend Robert was at this restaurant and he saw your office around the corner and he told me about you. That was the hook. That's so personal. And it is like so like person to person human in real life that this was a campaign that probably generated 45 leads in a week. Yeah,
Wow.
for that company. Yeah.
I think that's one thing about your copies, David, right? So apart from, kind of structuring it or making it
Yeah.
like a structure, you kind of make it very creative. And I think that's what has been working out as well, right?
Yeah. 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 You just have to just put a little bit, use a little bit of common sense, like just the little social cues and how
Right.
would you really talk to someone in real life and try to recreate it and also know a little bit what's the audience. Yeah. What works for a construction worker probably doesn't work for a doctor.
Hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But get
Great.
to know them. How do they behave? What are their beliefs? How do they talk? Yeah. And then you can send the appropriate message.
Got it. And they've also got a lot of requests on the chat asking if you could share this document with them. I'll leave it to you. If you'd want to share it, you can drop it on the chat.
Yeah, we can share it afterwards. I can send it to you. I can share
Awesome.
this. Yeah. That's
Perfect.
cool.
Thank you so much for that. And one
All
interesting
right.
question that we had, David, was regarding
Yeah.
the copies. So, do you send across
Yeah.
social proofs in your first team? First, do you send across social proofs? And if do you do it on your first email or on your follow-ups?
That's a good question. Most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, we don't use any social proof
Right.
because most of the time people have no fucking idea who your social proof is.
Right.
Why would you tell them? Why
Right.
would you tell them?
True.
Yeah. It's
True.
sometimes it's better to admit where you are in your business journey, right? And then maybe also don't ask for too much. Yeah.
100%.
Because what do you want to do with all this social proof, right? You want to say, okay, I did this before, I did X, Y, Z. But if you did it with companies nobody knows, who gives a shit at the end of the day, right? Who gives a
Right.
shit? So we only do that if the name is so big or is so relevant to the audience that it makes sense to name drop it, right? If you have a lot of case studies, if you're actually someone who has a lot of case studies,
Hmm.
yeah, then but you also have a massive audience with maybe different industries, then you can build a workflow in Clay that matches this case study with that audience, right? To
Got
make
it.
it relevant. It's
Right.
the same again, relevancy.
Relevancy. Yeah.
If your social proof is not relevant, why do you send it? That's something. If you can take one thing, if what the information you give them is not relevant, don't send it.
Send it.
Just
Align.
don't send. If it's not relevant, don't send it.
Got it. And how do you handle spam words when you write a cold email in another language, David? Because
Probably need someone to teach me because I don't care about spam words.
right.
I really don't care about spam words. Maybe someone has to teach me. Sometimes I check when I know I use like really like spammy spam words, money or free or whatsoever to rephrase it. But otherwise, I tell you honestly, I don't care. Like I have and I have like the thesis or like observed that I think Google and also Microsoft, they know that you're sending cold emails. And I think they let them go through if they see good engagement. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I have like the assumption, right? I think that is the way. It's same like with the algorithms on LinkedIn, social media. The more engagement you get, the more people get it, will be or see the content, right? And I think it's pretty similar with cold email. The more engagement you get, and we get pretty good engagement straight off the bat when we send campaigns.
Absolutely. And this is all I had for copies, and this was super
Yeah.
insightful. And there are some comments if you'd want to read. And the last topic that we want to cover is your smart lead setup and deliverability, David, because we did have a couple of questions where people
Yeah.
were asking your infrastructure.
Yeah. When it comes to deliverability, I think there are definitely people out there who know it way better than me. At the end of the day, I can tell just do the best practices that most people do. Yeah.
Right.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket in terms of your email providers. Yeah, your email accounts have like 2, 3. Yeah. You can use a mail doso, you can use, and also I see a lot of people like not advocating for resellers from Pakistan or whatever, but I tell you, our best campaigns are with those email accounts. Yeah, so they can't be that bad.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it depends more really on the copy. Yeah, some copy burned out. We had a client, for example, that we worked with for 10 months and we were crushing it for 10 months, and all of a sudden the campaigns tanked so much, and that I came to my limits. I was like, what is the issue? So I started to buy their email accounts there. And then do you know what it was? And at the end of the day, it was because we used spin tags.
Oh God.
So you always think spin tags is best practice, but then it always depends also how do you use spin tags. And what we did, our mistake was that we had a custom GPT that created the spin tags. So we had a lot of AI lingo in the alternatives.
Right.
And we thought we gonna improve it a little bit, but for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we fucked it up badly.
Oh God.
Yeah, we fucked it up badly. And because we use spin tags. So even with the spin tags, if you use it like create it yourself, not AI. This is why I don't say don't let the AI create the whole email. Yeah, just parts of it. And now we right now we don't use spin tags at all, and we're doing great. Yeah, so they're just some parts that are personalized.
Got it. And the rest of it is kind of a quick question, which is, do you do any recommendations on tracking links? Because that's something that people who are new to cold emailing are kind of curious about. So what are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah. So when it comes to, we don't track opens at all. We don't track tracking links. And I also don't really know, what do you want to do with that information? Like, what do you want to do now? Oh, I see so many people that can't, nobody replied. Yeah, you have to improve your copy, your offer. Yeah. So why don't you not just look at the reply rate from the get-go? If you have a good reply rate, it's all negative. It's still good. At least you know your copy resonates, but maybe it's just not the right offer. Yeah, but tracking the opening rates. I'm not an expert, even though I have like the software background, but I'm not an expert in terms of the way I understand it. Yeah, you send an email with a tracking link. There's some HTML code in it. And the most email providers like Google and Microsoft, they will open the email anyways, yeah, to scan for viruses. So the tracking rate is kind of vanity metric. It doesn't tell you anything really.
Absolutely.
The only thing we track is response rates, and that's it. Yeah, if we only get worried depending on the market and the offer. If we have a reply rate below 1%, then we know something is terribly off, but we also get a little bit stressed if it's under 2%. Yeah. But that also depends on what you're selling. If you're selling SEO, you probably don't have the best reply rate. Yeah.
I think a couple of years, 6, 7 years back, people had this metric, right? So they see opens, they see clicks, they kind of have a different approach to these people, they can kind of convert them easier, where they see people opening them 5 times, 6 times. But now, even as you know, David, these metrics are not very reliable, right? So there are more things. You kind of reach out to people saying, have you opened? And they're like, no, dude, I didn't open your email.
Yeah. And what do you want to do? Now you know this person, he's kind of interested. He looked at your email 5 times, but you want to now text him, I saw you open my email 5 times, right? If you do, it could be good. If you can somehow build an automation that could track this, or 5 times open, maybe now you send an email, but it is not related to him opening it 5 times. It just comes for him. It comes in at the right point because he still has it on its mind, right? But don't give him a big brother moment.
Absolutely. And this was honestly super insightful, David. We have people leaving and everybody is like, this was super helpful. But we've come to the end of the session. These are all the questions I had. This was super insightful for me as well. And I'll open the floor for questions. I know we're about time, but just opening the floor for questions for 5 minutes. Folks, if you have any questions, click on the React button on the center, raise your hand, turn on your video. I'll spotlight you and you can ask your questions directly to David. Again, React on the center, raise your hand, turn on your video and I'll spotlight you. Thank you, Alex. Any questions?
For example, what Nick just said in the chat, right? He says, in my opinion, open rate helps to know which emails are landing in spam. That could be a valid argument. That could be a valid argument if you maybe want to test in the beginning, right? Are my emails actually landing in the inbox? But then you also have to consider, okay, how long do you want to keep them open? Because at some point they might hurt your deliverability. Yeah. And then you have to turn them off, and maybe you change the copy, then you have to turn them on again. Like, what is the long-term negative possible effect of doing that? If you could just track the reply rates. If you have under 1%, you probably also have deliverability problem, right?
True. And people kind of have the same analogy behind out of office responses, right? So when they see a lot of out of office, they're still kind of happy
Yeah.
because the emails are
Yes.
going to the inbox.
I used to be the same. I was like, hey,
Right.
we're getting 90% opening rates, and people are like, whoa, wow. But yeah.
Awesome. But there is one question. Eunice has a question. Eunice, if you can turn on your video, I'll spotlight you. If not, you can unmute yourself and shoot your question.
Yeah, no problem. How are you guys?
All good, boss. How are you?
Perfect. Thank you, David, for the information. It was really helpful. It means a
You're
lot.
welcome.
Just had a question because I'm using Make for the part of water enrichment for the informations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a little bit complicated because I am software engineer as well. And it's
Cool.
like tricky when you link the modules, and then
Yeah.
I was wondering how much it Clay costs you per client, because I saw pricings quickly, but I don't have like a
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I tell you honestly, like, we have a legacy plan. Yeah. We were one of the first Clay users. We have a legacy plan. I think it's 350. And I know some of my agency competitors, they're like on the enterprise plans, but we are still using the legacy plan, and we can serve over 20 clients with it. Yeah. Just because we're using what I showed you, for example, in the find contacts table. Yeah. The way we get the contacts, we don't need to use any credits. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I were you, I think it's important, and that's why Clay made also a smart move. Yeah, but you should definitely have to get, I think, the Explorer plan, and then just with the lowest credit, and then use Server, you get your own ChatGPT API key, and you will have that's the lowest that you can. And maybe it might be a little bit more expensive than your Make setup, but it will give you so much time back that you can use that time to actually do more sales or do something else to get the money back in. Yeah, I don't know, maybe you pay 100, 150, 200 with Make. And then with Clay and Server, you're around 350, 400. Yeah, it might be for a little bit, but sometimes you also have to take a little risk, eh? And I think it's manageable because you really get time back. And if you're a software engineer, you're gonna kill it with Clay.
Okay. So you need to have a lot of clients first to go with Clay.
Yeah. Or you just take a risk, do it for yourself to get clients, right? Get creative with your own outreach.
True. Okay, thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
Cheers. Awesome. And I think these are all the questions you had. One last one, we have two other hands raised. But picking one from the chat, David, do you go crazy
Yeah.
on plain text, like double checking? You don't add any characters that add encoding,
No. Maybe I should. Maybe I should.
right? Alex is up next. There you go, sir. Can you unmute?
Yeah, David, hi.
Hi,
Great info.
Alex.
So I'm not an agency. I have a recruitment
Yeah.
firm, and so
Yeah.
our campaigns are not thousands upon thousands of not selling our service. What we historically are doing are kind of reaching out to companies with specific individuals. So the hook
Yeah.
is the background. So when I'm reaching, a campaign's probably going to have 300-400 people, right? But
Yeah.
we're doing that across a variety of different people or campaigns as far as my staff's concerned. So
Yeah.
does anything that you've said change since the scope is smaller, right? I mean, 1% would be fucking awesome, to be quite honest with
Yeah.
you, if I'm only
Yeah.
reaching out to like 200. So does anything change
Yeah.
in terms of
What's
what you share?
what's the goal of the outreach?
The goal of the outreach is to get their interest in that individual, because it essentially opens the door. And if they want to hire that person, great, deal done.
So
But it's more,
you want to suggest someone, an individual or a person, a talent that you
yeah,
have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, then it doesn't
Exactly.
really change, right? Because then it's just your relevancy. You have to create relevancy. Why is this candidate relevant? How would you do that manually? And then you have to rebuild that with Clay or whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah. So what could you, and it's also like, how could you create relevancy? One thing, I also tell you, HR is the hardest market. So you're in a tough market.
I've been doing it
Because
20 years, I know.
there's only so much you can say, even if you personalize. Yeah, even if you
Right.
personalize, you will have a lot of competition who kind of say the same. So it's really
I tend to
hard.
stay
I don't
away
know how
from
much. Yeah.
HR.
What would
Because
be a
I
good
usually
trigger?
represent salespeople. So I'm going after
Yeah.
CROs, I'm going after heads of sales. So they're
Yeah.
already used to getting, they know what it's like to cold call. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of sympathy there since they know what it's like because their team is doing it.
Yeah.
So we tend to go after sales folks, not HR as much.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think two good triggers that you could maybe also try. And they're not from me. One of them I heard the first time from, what's his name, Eric Novoslavsky. I don't know his full name.
Yes.
Yeah, but I read it from him. But was to find out companies that usually or recently lost a salesperson. Yeah, you can do that with Clay, or people who just hired a new VP of sales because they have budget, they want to restructure. That are good, two good triggers. Yeah, you can add me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I can show you. I can record you a quick video how to do so.
Awesome. I'll connect with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Next up is Alex, and I think that would be the last question for the day.
Okay.
Alex, if you can turn on
Let's
your
go.
video, I'll spotlight you, sir.
Hey there.
Let's
Hi,
go.
David. Hi, Akash.
Hi, Alex.
There you go. How are you doing?
Dialing in also from Barcelona.
Epa, nice.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. That was very valuable. What really caught my attention because I'm just getting started as an industrial B2B lead
Yeah.
gen agency
Ah,
was the fact that
nice.
you mentioned, was the fact that you mentioned that US market is saturated, so more competition in the inbox, but you said German is less. And I'm targeting the
Yeah.
Middle East, right? I'm targeting the
Yeah.
MENA region, all those industrial
Yeah.
factories, which is
Yeah.
a very old mentality in how to
Yeah.
pitch and how to like salespeople mentality. So
Yeah.
what do you think about the market there in terms of I mean competition
Yeah,
in the
I would
inbox from
think
companies?
I would think, okay, I have no idea about the Middle Eastern market, but I would think, okay, is it big enough overall? Yeah, is it big enough overall? Do they use email? If they use email and you do it sophisticated, you're gonna kill it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're bringing relevancy, as you said, as domain
Yeah.
expert because we're chemical engineers. So we know, like,
Yeah.
writing the sales copies. We don't have the like you guys have the software engineering expertise
Yeah.
that can really boost up their tech stack. But we can, in terms of writing the email copy, this is where we really come in hand. Like, we don't have to rely on ChatGPT because we can really target the pain points of what those people and those business owners want to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
But if you really want to increase that and get it to the next level, and what I said, you can increase not just the relevancy through your skills and the pain points, but also like maybe observing certain things about those companies you're reaching out to, and then tie it with your expertise that you have with a little bit of customization that I showed. Yeah, it should kill it.
All right. No, thanks for the input. Great
Thank you,
job you're
Alex.
doing
You're
there.
welcome. You're welcome.
Inspiration. Cheers.
And those are all the questions, David, but I'm going to bombard you with three quick questions from the chat. I could keep it rapid fire.
Yeah.
When is it too many people from the same firm? How many people do you usually target, David, from the same company?
That's a good question. And I don't know if my way is the right way, but I don't really care. If they have 5, I contact 5.
Right.
Because not all the time they speak. One thing that I want to add, I just do it in batches. I contact 1 and 2, and I set them up in Clay as well, 1 and 2. And if they don't reply, then 3 and 4, and so on. But I'm not really afraid of pissing people off. Maybe that's my problem. Yeah, I'm not really afraid, because if your offer is good and your copy is good, they still will, like, they're not going to be pissed at you.
Got it.
And do you really want to work with someone who's like then pissed because of something like that?
That's what you need to think about. So
Yeah.
And next up, we've gotten a lot of 1-star Google reviews from targets. Any advice on how to solicit positive reviews to raise our average rating? I feel like this is inevitable with high volume cold emails.
Okay, wait. So we've gotten a lot of one-star Google reviews from targets. Any advice on how to also so getting good reviews through cold email. What can you give them in exchange? What can you give them in exchange?
And you feel in situations like this, would a gift card or all these value props we give kind of works, David?
I never sent gift cards. What we, for example, yeah, I never sent something like that. What we tried at the beginning of the year, what actually did, I thought it's going to be the next big thing, but it didn't work really well. You know, still that we used robots to send handwritten letters that were personalized.
Right.
Yeah, but it sounds great. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be fucking multimillionaire, but it didn't really work that much. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't really know. Like I would think, okay, who do you want to target? What is valuable for them? What could you do? Yeah, to give them that is of value that they say, hey, I give you a review. Yeah, a good one.
And you said HR is the hardest market. Is this for SaaS tool providers or also service providers and consultants in this area? Any additional insights?
I think even HR, you would probably have some gems. Yeah, some really unique niches within HR that work. But I just know from experience that HR is really hard to position because most HR don't do the same. They give you a client, you don't pay until you have them stuffed. There's only so much you can say differently than your competition. Yeah, same goes for every market. Yeah, so the more unique, the easier it will be. Yeah, and the more competition you have, the more you have to show on your email that you did a little bit of work. Yeah, so they can justify to themselves that they got your email.
Got it. And that's all we have for today. Joe, I think we will pass on your question because we're already kind of due late. So
yeah,
drop us a message.
If anyone else has questions, you can add me on LinkedIn. Just type in my name. You will find me on the Wyngman Agency. Yeah, and just connect there with me, and I'm happy to help you out.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, David. And you heard it. So if there's anything, drop David a message on LinkedIn and he'll get back to you. But David, anything else before we wind up, sir?
No, it was a pleasure. I really like the structure, actually. I think we talked about it. I prepared this, but I forgot that you also had a flow prepared based on what I provided you. So I think it worked quite out pretty well. And yeah, happy that some people could take some value from this. And like I said, if anyone has some questions, just reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'm happy to help you out, guys.
100%. And thank you for spilling all the gold. And this is one of many. I'll see you soon again on the Office Hours session.
Yeah.
But thank you all for taking the time. As you know, 3 consistent things in life: death, taxes, and office hours every Thursday.
Yeah.
See you all on the next one. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, let's go. Bye-bye.